Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co. Coming up tonight, we start with an absolutely astonishing story.
This was a serious departmental error.
Yeah, you can say that again, ladies and gents. A top-secret military operation has been smuggling migrants into Britain. The whole thing is a mess. It involves data breaches, chaos and billions of pounds. It's all been happening under the cloak of a super injunction intended to keep everybody in the dark. What on earth? And this information, of course, comes out on a day that government finally caves in and tells us that us taxpayers are now funding universal credit for over 1 million migrants, the majority of whom, you guessed it, do not work. Are us taxpayers mugs or what? But it's all right, don't worry, because the Labour Party are on hand to tell us that they are the party of home ownership. Good luck trying to get your hands on one. But I can tell you, not everyone is enamoured with the Labour Party, as a poll out now shows that the new Corbyn party could be on a par with Labour at the next election. Dear me. What a day it has been, I can tell you, and keeping me company to get into it all. My panel tonight, so I've got Matt Goodwin, the pollster and academic, alongside him. I've got Matthew Larser, the former Labour advisor. But before we get stuck in, let's cross live and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Michelle, thank you and good evening. The top stories: the data breach, which exposed details of Afghans, was a deeply regrettable incident that placed thousands of vulnerable people at risk and should never happen again. But no further regulatory action is required at this time, the Information Commissioner's Office has said this afternoon. Thousands of Afghans who supported British forces are being secretly relocated to the UK under an £850 million scheme triggered by that data breach. Nearly 19,000 names and contact details were accidentally leaked by a defence official in 2022. The Afghanistan response route aims to protect up to 100,000 people at risk of Taliban reprisals. The government faces rising legal costs amid serious questions over accountability and delay. Defence Secretary John Healey spoke in the House of Commons this afternoon.
This was a serious departmental error. It was in clear breach of strict data protection protocols, and it was one of many data losses relating to the ARAP scheme during this period.
New figures from the Department for Work and Pensions reveal almost 1.3 million migrants are now claiming universal credit. That's a near 50% rise in claims since 2022, with EU nationals making up the majority at just under 800,000. Another 200,000 claims come from non-EU nationals with indefinite leave to remain, and around 120,000 from refugees. The surge is reigniting debate around welfare, immigration and who should be eligible for support. John Torrode's contract on MasterChef will not be renewed, the BBC and production company Banijay UK have said. It's after Torrode confirmed he's the subject of a racist language allegation upheld in a review into co-host Greg Wallace's behaviour. He previously said he has no recollection of the incident but is shocked and saddened and insists he would never intend offence. The review upheld 45 allegations against Wallace, mostly involving inappropriate sexual language and behaviour dating back to 2005. BBC Director General Tim Davie this afternoon said he believes MasterChef does have a future with the broadcaster beyond 2028, adding it absolutely can survive and prosper. Meanwhile, the BBC has published its annual salary report today. Gary Lineker takes top of the list with more than £1.35 million, despite stepping down from Match of the Day after 26 years. Other top earners include Fiona Bruce and Nick Robinson, all clearing £400,000 a year. Tim Davie took home more than £540,000. This report lands amid a 10% rise in BBC revenue and, of course, that fresh controversy with upheld complaints about MasterChef presenter Greg Wallace and his co-host John Torrode. The two men who felled the tree at Sycamore Gap have each been jailed for 4 years and 3 months. A court heard it was an act of drunken stupidity. Former friends, 39-year-old Daniel Graham and 32-year-old Adam Carruthers, were convicted of criminal damage to the much-loved tree, which had stood for more than 100 years in a fold in the Northumberland landscape. They were also convicted of criminal damage to Hadrian's Wall, caused when the sycamore fell onto that ancient monument in September of 2022. US President Donald Trump says he's disappointed in Vladimir Putin, but insists he's not done with the Russian leader. In an interview, the US president claimed a Ukraine peace deal was close, only for Putin to launch fresh attacks, including on a nursing home. Asked how he'd stop the bloodshed, Mr. Trump said, "We're working on it." The comments came just hours after he imposed fresh sanctions on buyers of Russian exports. He's also pledged new weapons for Ukraine. And finally, the cost of some new electric cars will drop by up to £3,750 as the government reintroduces grants to boost EV sales. Discounts will apply to models under £37,000, with car makers able to apply from tomorrow. The scheme will run for 3 years, but critics warn a lack of public charging points still puts buyers off. The government's aiming for 300,000 chargers and a full petrol and diesel ban by 2030. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More in an hour. It's over to Michelle.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that. And hello, good evening to each and every one of you. My name's Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co with you until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, I've got Matt Goodwin, the pollster, academic and GB News presenter. Alongside him, I've got Matthew Larser, the former Labour advisor. Triple M's for you all at home tonight. What an absolute treat. And boy, oh boy, ladies and gents, what a day it has been. Honestly, just when you think sometimes things can't get any worse for this country, just when you start to think, do you know what more could go wrong? I can tell you now, you've never quite seen the end of it. You won't believe the story we're about to start with tonight. You can join the conversation, of course, in all the usual ways. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. But look, this huge story that's finally became public knowledge today. I speak, of course, of one of the biggest secretive military operations, smuggling, under a cloak of secrecy, migrants into the UK. Our political editor, Christopher Hope, joins us live now. Christopher, good evening to you. Bring us all up to speed with what on earth has been going on.
Great to see you, Michelle. Yeah, I mean, huge apologies all round here from the government to us as taxpayers because of this mistake here by a government worker. It goes back to February 2022. A government worker accidentally sent a data set containing the information on 19,000 people who had applied for the Afghan relocation scheme known as ARUP. There were 150 rows of information. It contained details of 33,000 items in there. The MOD then, of course, heard about it a year later in August 2023. This led to the government notifying the Information Commissioner. Then journalists found out from a newspaper, the Daily Mail. That led to the government seeking an injunction on any coverage of this information until they had managed to deal with the risk of threat to life of those affected. That was increased to a super injunction by the judge. That meant that we had no idea this was taking place. A super injunction means we can't even legally report the existence of what was happening here. Fast forward to today, and the government finally has come clean. Now, it turns out the government had offered asylum to nearly 24,000 Afghan soldiers and families caught up. In the event that wasn't required, nearly 7,000 were relocated, 1,500 of them who were seen to be high-risk interpreters and the like. Huge embarrassment. John Healey, he's the Labour Defence Secretary, he has issued an apology to the British public, to MPs, to the press. He says that it's a sincere apology, a serious data incident that should never have happened. He says they've now installed new software to make sure it won't happen again. Will a similar data breach happen again? They say, he says, one can never say never. The reverberations are being felt through Whitehall, through Westminster. Tan Desai, well known to GB News, he's the Labour chair of the Defence Committee. He's now ordered an immediate investigation. There'll be people called to give evidence to that. Question marks over Ben Wallace, he's the Tory Defence Secretary. To James Heapy, he was the Armed Forces Minister at the time. Grant Shapps, for a while he was the Tory Defence Secretary following Ben Wallace. He set up the route to get many of these thousands of Afghans out of the country before they're at risk of the Taliban. Are other super injunctions in place concealing other government secrets from you and me, Michelle, and our viewers at GB News? John Healey says they're not aware of any. Number 10 spokesman told me not aware of any. You might think that heads are going to roll over this immense cock-up. Well, you'd think that, but you might be wrong, because I asked several times to the briefing we had earlier with the number 10 official spokesman. They wouldn't say whether anyone had been disciplined. No comment, we're told, on internal disciplinary matters. Not a malicious act, we're told. The PM was briefed after he became Prime Minister. John Healey was briefed before that, about November last year, as the Shadow Defence Secretary. It's triggered this review here in my hand. This is the independent review by someone called Paul Rimmer. All this has taken place over the past 3 years in complete secrecy, and only now are we seeing it. It's embarrassing for this government, but they can't say a similar thing won't happen again. Michelle.
I mean, it is. Very few things, Christopher Hope, actually make me speechless in this world these days. But this today, it stopped me absolutely in my tracks. One of the most alarming things to me was actually the fact that, as you just alluded to, the information, it was quite a delay before actually the Ministry of Defence even realised that this information had been published. They only became alerted to it because a member of public had contacted them saying, do you realise this stuff is on Facebook? I've got a copy of it. The Taliban have probably got a copy of it. This notion where people are saying to you, we don't know if another super injunction exists, would they even be able to tell us if indeed a super injunction did exist?
And that's exactly right. They wouldn't be able to tell us. But John Healey did say in the House of Commons, the dispatch box, he's not aware of any super injunctions, and therefore we use that to ask number 10. And we're guided they're not aware of any others, but of course they wouldn't know about them, Michelle, as you say. This idea of using super injunctions to conceal spending. At one point, Rachel Reeves thought there might be as much as £7 billion required, and we understand that the scale of the spending required was part of this £22 billion black hole, which Labour said they found when they came into office. They put all the kind of liabilities into that when, of course, they came into office. As it is, thankfully, only a fraction of that money might need to be spent, but it's just nearly £1 billion. And to have that money spent without any scrutiny by GB News viewers or reporters or the MPs or whoever is outrageous. I know why it happened, because they had to make sure that the Taliban didn't act on this information, but questions are being asked tonight about whether a super injunction, that absolute maximum secrecy you can impose on the press, was required in this case.
And help us understand this as well, because there's various reports today, Christopher, that some of the people included on this list were people that had actually had their asylum request denied previously because they were known to have conducted violent and/or sexual offences. Tell me more about that.
Yes, I'm not across the... According to the report here, the Paul Rimmer report doesn't mention individuals and who they are, but there are concerns about that. We don't know who they are, and that's part of the problem when the government is dealing with this. That we'd hope that through the process, anyone found with those issues you described there, found guilty of those issues, very serious offences, they won't be allowed to stay in the UK. But there's no information in what we've been given officially by the government.
I mean, goodness gracious me. Christopher Hope, our political editor there, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed with that. Ladies and gents, honestly, When I say to you, sometimes you think that you've heard it all, and then something else just takes us to the next level. So concerning for so many people today, not just financially, not just from a security perspective, but this whole notion of silencing the press, keeping things away from you, the general public, us, the taxpayers, absolutely disgraceful. Before you even get to the notion that actually some of these people could be people that are actually, we know, are wrong-uns and dangerous for us women. Yes, sure, many people on that list have done great, noble things, protecting and helping British forces. But goodness gracious me, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to digest everything that you've just heard. When I come back, the panel will be giving their thoughts, and you are invited to give yours too.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain. We like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Bishopsthorpe Road, it's on the verges of York City Centre, and it was once crowned the best high street in Britain, but there is a new issue facing it, and that is?
The cost of parking. It's increased by, wait for it, 500%.
And they've done that overnight without consultation, right?
Yeah.
So it now costs £4.85 an hour, right? And what's that going to do? It's going to stop people visiting.
It's going to drive people away.
Anna, it's not easy to get around York, I have to say. You know, one road in, one road out type thing, congestion around the place. Yes, there's car parking spaces, but goodness me, I mean, this is obviously very, very controversial, and these are the sort of taxes, indirect taxes, that come on all of us. It's now going to cost us so much money just to get there, just to see there. Tell us more.
That's right, Eamon, and the City of York Council have introduced this to try and reduce congestion, to try and get more people on buses.
Extra things like this just mean that A, it's been unprepared, but also it just adds up, and it then stops you from doing other things. And then, you know, for people that haven't got enough money to eat and to, you know, to look after the kids and things, I think it's disgusting, to be honest.
Thank you for speaking with us this morning, Karen. Really appreciate it. The council say that they are going to review these charges. They're going to look at them every 3, 6 and 9 months and start engaging with the local community to just see how fair these prices are.
OK, Anna Riley.
Where are you parked this morning, Anna?
We're parked here, £22.50 it's cost us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewbs, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dewbs & Co. with me, Michelle Dewberry. Alongside me, I've got Mike Goodwin and Matthew Larser. Now, at the top of the programme, we brought you, the details, the extraordinary details of a secret military cover-up that was smuggling migrants into Britain in their thousands, with billions of pounds earmarked. Absolute scandal, absolutely confusing, astonishing, frankly quite unbelievable mess. Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK, he's had his say. Take a listen.
The Afghan scandal has broken. Extraordinary that a British government put a super injunction on all the British media that lasted for over 2 years to cover up a story of incompetence, dishonesty and a threat to our own national security. Many of them had helped us during that 20-year war there. Others were known to us for being, frankly, just bad people. Either way, it was decided in 2023 that we would airlift many of them out of Afghanistan, a process that continues to this day. We decided that 25,000 of the 100,000 should come to the United Kingdom. Amongst the number that have come are convicted sex offenders.
Lots and lots of you have been in touch. I'll bring you in and then I'll bring the panel in, don't worry. Deb, you've got in touch and said you want to see a vote of no confidence in the Labour government, but it's not. This isn't just the Labour government. This all occurred, obviously, in 2022 with the previous governments. Lots of you asking about accountability for the person that did this. This was basically essentially a Royal Marine. Long story short, he was in contact with Afghan people that had been helping, I do have to make this point, been helping British troops. Basically fact-checking, are these people, were they on the right side, were they involved and all the rest of it. He apparently inadvertently sent the spreadsheet out with these huge databases on, apparently not just once, but twice. And I found it so odd that they're not saying whether or not that fella or that lady has lost their jobs. I mean, lots of you getting in touch and saying, Michelle, why would anyone be surprised? Ian says, this super injunction just proves that yet again, the ease with which our politicians will deceive us when they feel it serves their needs. Linda said, why would anyone be against all of this? These Afghans risk their lives and their families' lives to help our troops. Once we'd pulled out, what on earth were we supposed to do about them? That sentiment, I have to say, is echoed by a lot of people saying you don't have an issue with the individuals, but you're very concerned by the whole kind of cloud that surrounds it. Matt Goodwin.
Well, it's another enormous blunder by the UK state that the British taxpayers are going to have to pay for. And I think there are so many deeply troubling things about this scandal that we're still digesting and processing. But the question I would ask is, if the UK state can do this, and this is, by all accounts, an enormous cover-up, if it can bring in thousands of Afghans into our country while gagging the media, while allocating billions of pounds that are not properly scrutinised, while having no democratic vote, while having no transparency, if the UK state can do all of that, then what on earth is the state doing on top of that? What else is going on that we don't really know about? Because I just find the scale of this astonishing. It's another £5 to £7 billion that British taxpayers are going to have to find the money for. And it raises, I think, too, Michelle Larcy, another question, which is there are many people in Britain today, like myself, who want illegal migrants in this country deported. And we're often told that, oh, no, you can't do that. It's too complex. It's too complicated. Well, here we have the UK state executing the most complex evacuation programme in peacetime, without anybody knowing about it, including the media in Westminster, and then they tell us, well, it's too complicated to remove illegal migrants from Britain and foreign criminals. And I find that logic now completely absurd. But this is an enormous cover-up. That's what's happened. The state has covered this up with no accountability. Heads should roll, as you say. I want to know who is responsible. I want to know who's getting fired, who's getting sacked. And maybe, just maybe, Keir Starmer could do the decent thing, come out and say, you know what? To make up for the £5 to £7 billion, here's what we're going to do for the year. We're going to not spend another £13 billion on foreign aid. We're not going to spend all this money helping people from outside of Britain because we think British taxpayers have paid enough. And this mistake is on us. It's on the British state. So we'll find the money that we'll be allocating to other people. We'll take the money from there rather than have taxpayers pay for it.
Yeah, and just to be clear, some of the media did know about this. They knew about it in August 2023, which then prompted the Ministry of Defence to basically apply to the court for this super injunction that was then granted in September 2023. Before I bring Matt Lazar in, let me just bring to you just some of the facts and figures that we're talking about here, ladies and gents. So this is the Afghan resettlement post all of this leaking stuff. Over 18,000 people were apparently identified from the data leak. Of these, 1,500 were deemed at high risk. 900 of those and their families have already arrived in the UK, which gives us a total of 4,500, so on average, 5 per family. 600 have not yet arrived with their families, total 2,400, and a total of 6,900 people have been or will be resettled in the UK due to the breach. Matthew Larser, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, clearly it's an absolute scandal that this happened in the first place, and I think, yes, we will need to know what heads editorial role, not just the Royal Marine who, pressed send with all this data on it, but also, why he or she was in a position to have that data in a way that was sort of unfiltered, that there were no checks and balances there. I mean, I think clearly the moral case, these were people who had all supported British troops while they were in Afghanistan. Clearly the moral case is once the blunder had been done, they had to be looked after and protected and brought here. It looks like the money has been accounted for. As you heard Christopher Hope saying there, it appears that it was in the black hole. A lot of people were...
That's not the point,
about the black hole.
There's no scrutiny. There needs to be democratic scrutiny.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, as far as the Labour government's concerned, the Labour government, the courts lifted it under pressure from various media organisations, but at least John Healey's the Defence Secretary, commissioned this report to sort of get us to actually get it out there. I mean, this was, I heard from friends who went into government, they said all these skeletons in the cupboard, and some of the things like the blood compensation wasn't factored in, etc. Clearly, this was one skeleton they weren't able to talk about, but was of massive proportions that they inherited from the Tories who'd already, put the injunction in place.
Can I just say one other thing briefly, which is that just because people help us in terms of our foreign policy commitments doesn't mean that we have some kind of automatic obligation to give them resettlement. I'm sorry, because when you're talking about potentially tens of thousands of people, I've read one report today, I think in the Times or the Telegraph, that said up to 100,000
Well, I think that's
Afghans
100,000
could be implicated in this scandal. That doesn't mean we need to provide
I think they've sifted it down to people who are most at risk. So I think the 100,000 has been sifted down to the numbers that Michelle was talking about. Look, I agree with you. If somebody supports British soldiers ordinarily, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have the right to come to the UK. But when you've had the regime change in Afghanistan, so they are now at direct harm's way anyway, if that was found out about, there'll be a question mark about it. But once we've emailed out the list of them, potentially seen by people who would go and kill them, I think we do have a moral right then. I don't think it's automatic. I think it's the circumstances that have created it.
I've got to say as well, this is not the first breach of this nature. And I mean, you've got to raise question marks here, and you've got to ask yourself, how can such levels, seemingly, of incompetence exist? And yes, we all do indeed make mistakes, but apparently these emails were sent outside of the permitted framework, because, of course, you're not just like you and I emailing our friends. You do actually have to have a lot more security and all the rest of it around your email systems. These leaks apparently took place because those systems were not accurately used. I also need to point out to you as well, earlier on this month, following a separate... I mean, I'm not laughing because these are very serious issues, but I'm just almost laughing at the absolute absurdity of it all, ladies and gents. A separate data breach connected to Afghans applying for asylum. The Ministry of Defence agreed to pay £1.6 million to the 265 people affected. And now we've got a new law firm that signed up 1,000 currently Afghan ex-soldiers, trying to create now, and understandably so, by the way, if you are indeed an Afghan soldier that's been working to support and help British troops, and then you randomly get all of yours and your family's details leaked to people potentially like the Taliban, damn right I'd be making a legal claim as well. But the costs involved of this are going to be absolutely eye-watering. The fact that they haven't come out and said, do you know what, we're not going to name the person, but he or she is gone, they've been given the boot. There is such a lack of trust in politicians and politics in this country. These kind of incidents just dent that even further.
I mean, just look at today as an example. The numbers that we're now dealing with are mind-boggling. So what the British people have discovered in this country over the last month or so, they're now going to have to cover the costs £5 to £7 billion for these Afghans being relocated into the UK, who, by the way, we know that Afghans top the list of nationalities that are most likely to commit rapes and sexual assaults in our country. We know that from Freedom of Information requests. £7 billion on the Afghan resettlement, £6 billion on social housing subsidies for people who are living in social housing in this country who were born outside of this country. £12 billion we discovered today every year on universal credit for people who are not a UK national. £15 billion over the next decade on accommodation costs, on private housing costs for people coming over in the small boats. And then we've got another £1 billion on policing the small boat crisis and £140 million on translation services across the public sector. If you want to know why taxes are going to go up this winter, the mass migration crisis is not the only reason, but it is a very big reason. We need to end mass migration now.
I mean, I think that's sticking together two issues.
These are the financial costs.
I think
these are the financial costs that the UK people have discovered today or the last month.
Well, we're going to come on to that universal credit situation.
On your direct point about accountability, absolutely, it adds cynicism to it. The British state needs to take a long, hard look at itself, and we need to put, hold the feet of the British state to the fire, because this is clearly, utterly unacceptable. And the fact there hasn't been scrutiny, maybe for understandable reasons in the first months while the active airlift was taking place, but I'm not quite sure why it had to stay in place for so long. I would just say one thing. Do you remember when the Ugandan Asians came over and they were expelled by Idi Amin, and we took Ugandan Asians in? Now became one of the most successful communities in Britain, real business leaders, real entrepreneurs. Let's hope that these Afghanis who were committed to supporting Britain in their country are given the support here to contribute and add to our economy. And that's, I think, really important, that this actually becomes a net positive. But clearly, there's a huge net negative that the British state needs to address, which is why this happened in the first place and why it's been unscrutinised for so long.
On the UK state point, I'll put aside the point about Afghans making a positive contribution, because I think the evidence speaks for itself on that.
I mean, these Afghans, I'm saying.
I don't think it will be positive. The UK state. When is the UK state actually going to deliver? Because we've got the small boats crisis the UK state can't fix. We've got high-speed rail, which, again, the UK state has completely messed that up. Levelling up never really happened. We've got this ongoing migration crisis that the UK state can't get its arms around. Now we've got this Afghan cover-up, which has clearly been going on for the last couple of years. It wasn't that long ago, actually. This is about 10 years ago. Professor Anthony King wrote the famous book, Blunders of Our Government, in which he said the problem with the UK state is that it doesn't work. But here we are again, decade on, the UK state isn't working. It's too big, it's too fat, it's overloaded. We need, I think, to discuss how we can dramatically strip back the state, make it more efficient, make it more effective, make it work for British people instead of giving them one enormous bill after another.
Well, I mean, we all rely on the state and the services it provides, and British people want things like the NHS to be there. But clearly, in terms of the machinery of government, this is a huge, huge failure, and those lessons have to be learned. But remember, this isn't some DEI officer who is alleged to have, pressed the wrong button. This is a Royal Marine. I mean, this isn't a faceless bureaucrat in Whitehall. This is somebody who is on active service for their country. So, it proves that even what we think of as the bits of the state that most people, don't argue should be there, pretty undisputed, can make mistakes.
Is there an element, and because when I'm listening to all this and I'm thinking about it, there's a part of me that thinks, is all of this a huge advertisement for the fact that actually we should involve ourselves less in these foreign conflicts that seem to be happening all over the world? Because I don't know what it is about us. We seem to be chasing the tails of America all the time. Whatever they do, we're so far up their backsides, it's almost embarrassing. We don't seem to be very good at any of this stuff. We seem to be creating more harm than we do any good whatsoever. And we seem to create lasting consequences for this country, whether that is financially or militarily, whatever it is. What's wrong with us? Why don't we just learn from all of these catastrophes and realise we're not very good at this, stay out of things that do not concern us?
I mean, it's amazing how much of this lies downstream from one man, Tony Blair. I mean, it was Blair, basically, who led us into Afghanistan, led us into Iraq, led us into the forever wars. We were told at the time, listen to the experts. The experts know best. Listen to Whitehall, listen to Westminster. Blair also introduced the mass immigration experiment in 2004, and look how that's turned out. So much of this goes back to the Blairite revolution. And, Matthew, let me finish. For years, we've been told by the expert class, for years, trust us, don't listen to the populists. And it turns out they've been presiding over one cover-up after another.
I mean, on Afghanistan, we were right to go into Afghanistan after 9/11. What we weren't right to do is pull out in the way that we did and to abandon the people.
Our interventions have been a disaster. Look at the Middle East, look at Northern Africa.
Sorry, Matt, you wanted me to let you finish.
Right,
let me finish.
Let's talk about Libya and Syria.
We were right to go into Afghanistan. We were wrong to leave in the way we did and leave the mess behind. If we were still in Afghanistan, we wouldn't, of course, have these people at risk and coming. And on the net migration, Tony Blair allowed allowed EU citizens from Eastern Europe to come. As we're going to discuss in the debate coming up, EU citizens actually make a net contribution. It's the opening of the doors, which happened afterwards under Boris Johnson, that's causing the current crisis.
Hugh, he's been in touch and says, Michelle, it's an absolute scandal that anything like this could be hidden from everybody. Quite frankly, he says, is it time that super injunctions are scrapped altogether? Very, very concerning things they are, Hugh. Look, the conversation that Matt just alluded to will take place after the break. In terms of universal credit information we finally got, Labour Party as well, I want to talk about them. I'll see you in 2.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
It's pretty unsettled across the eastern parts of Europe as we go through this week. Frequent showers bring the risk of some intense thundery downpours. A different story further west there, across Madeira and the Canary Islands. It's dry here on Wednesday, also dry across parts of Portugal and Spain. Meanwhile, further east, Italy will see a few showers, but the showers more frequent, more intense towards the east. And like I said, that brings the risk of some heavy thundery downpours. Through the rest of the week, it's looking largely dry for most.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a breezy and at times wet Tuesday, showers ease overnight, cloud breaks up, and then actually a fine period of weather through Wednesday for the vast majority. We've had low pressure in charge during Tuesday. That's slowly pushing away into the North Sea, taking its persistent rain with it, but leaving behind a legacy of cloud and outbreaks of showery rain for central and southern Scotland, northern and eastern England. Meanwhile, the next low starting to move up from the southwest, albeit relatively slowly, bringing some rain back into Cornwall, parts of Devon by the end of the night. In between, clear spells and a cool start to Wednesday, but a bright start for many of us, away, that is, from the southwest of England, where it's going to be damp with some persistent and at times heavy rain. That's going to be pushing into Exeter, parts of Somerset, Dorset through the morning. Wales getting off to a bright start. Northern Ireland the place to be first thing. Plenty of sunshine here. Likewise for Western Scotland. I think further east across Scotland, thicker cloud and some remaining showers. Nothing too heavy at this stage. And those showers will be easing during the morning. Northern and eastern England likewise seeing some cloud and some showers. And as temperatures rise through the day, there's likely to be 1 or 2 further showers developing through central and southern Scotland, the far north of England. But elsewhere across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, central and southeastern England, it's a bright day, plenty of dry weather and feeling warm once again in places mid to high 20s likely. A different story for the far southwest of Wales and southwest England. Rain here, pushing then further northeast as we begin Thursday. Not much rain, has to be said, for Wales and the southwest as we start off Thursday. The heavier showers move through Northern Ireland and western Scotland, where it will continue to be unsettled as we start off Friday. Further southeast, it's warmer, sunnier, and with temperatures reaching 29 Celsius, feeling hot again in places.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M8 eastbound between junctions 14 and 13, flooding restricts lane 1, increasing travel time. In York, a broken vehicle on the A64 eastbound causes delays, closing 1 lane. The M60 anti-clockwise in Salford has a collision, closing 3 lanes. A lane is closed on Leicester's M1 due to a collision. The A34 southbound is disrupted after a collision. The M4 westbound in West Berkshire is closed due to a vehicle fire. And on the trains, major disruptions affect services between Hull and Selby and Hull and Goole. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry. I've got alongside me Matthew Goodwin and Matthew Larser. I don't know why I called you Matthew then, you don't like that, do you? Matt Goodwin and Matthew Larser. Huge reaction, I can tell you, to that data breach, that situation with the Afghan resettlement scheme. One of the things that so many of you are getting in touch about, as we've just been echoing before the break, is super injunctions. Lots of you are saying, Michelle, at the end of the day, if you don't have, for example, freedom of the press, how on earth can we seriously say that we are a democracy? Look, the press and lots of other people have been putting lots of pressure on, so I hear, in terms of getting more data transparency out of the government. Well, in a little bit of a nod towards victory on some of the stuff, the quest for transparency, the Department of Works and Pensions today unveiled data that many people have been asking for, which is looking at universal credit and who exactly is claiming that when it comes to migrants and migration status. I've got to say, it was relatively eye-opening stuff. I can put it up on the screen for you, actually, just to give you all some context of some of the numbers that are involved here. Because what it's saying is that migrants are claiming universal credit, 1.3 million migrants. That is a 50% increase in claims since 2022. To be clear, just under 800,000 of those people are EU nationals, 211,000 non-EU nationals, and 119,000 refugees. Matt Goodwin, your thoughts?
Well, this is how the social contract breaks down in the country, because what we're doing is we are forcing the hard-working, tax-paying British people who are getting up every day and going to work to pay for a welfare regime that is now skewed towards supporting foreigners. More than half of all those people you just talked about, more than half of the nearly 1.3 million are not in work, OK? So we have a welfare regime that is being used to support people who are not from this country at a cost of £12 billion every year. £12 billion every year. Now, how is this sustainable? During the worst cost of living crisis since the Second World War, how is this sustainable? What we need to do is strip welfare back just for UK people. We need to make it harder for all people to be on welfare. We need to incentivise people to get back to work. And we need to end this insanity. There is no justification for this. If you come to this country, you work. You do not live on the welfare state. And by the way, you do not sit in social housing that is also being subsidised by British taxpayers to the tune of another £6 billion every year. And somebody in government needs to get their arms around this and say enough is enough. The British people cannot keep paying these astronomical sums.
I've got to say as well, there's a load of burn-idle Brits as well that actually just languish on universal credit. You shouldn't be, if you're working age and you're actively, physically able to work and you don't have caring responsibilities or whatever else it is, I don't even understand why we've got this notion that you can literally live on and on and on a welfare state.
Let's remember that a lot of people on universal credit are in work.
Well, I'm not talking about them, am I?
Most
I'm
of the
talking about the ones that
nationals
are
not.
Half, but I mean...
Oh, no. More than half are not in work. 40% are in work.
I believe in reforming the welfare system. It's a shame that the political party that's number one in the opinion polls at the moment doesn't, which is why it wants to scrap the two-children benefit cap, or why Reform opposed benefit changes that the government tried to put through. Look, the issue about this is quite complicated. 1 in 5 workers in the UK are now foreign citizens. So therefore, they are going to show up in these figures, because that's not 1 in 5 people, that's 1 in 5 members of the workforce. So, of course, people who have paid into the system are able to get things out of the system. So if you are somebody, if there are 800,000 EU nationals, if you're somebody who came here 25 years ago to work, but you ended up being given post-Brexit indefinitely to remain as part of the final settlement scheme, if you then become unemployed, what are we saying? That, you know, you've lived in this country for 20 years, you've contributed for 20 years, but you happen to be unemployed because the company you work for is closed down or whatever, or made job cuts, but you're not allowed any benefits. Of course, we need... that's about fairness, and it's about people who've paid into it. I think too many people came here under the Boris Johnson random post-Brexit regime, when literally doors were flung open, families were able to be brought over in a way that simply didn't happen before. But, you know, there are always going to be people in this who are benefits.
Matthew, can I ask you a question? Yeah. Do you think the millions of people who came over under the Boris wave, when he opened the floodgates to mainly non-Europeans, do you think they should be given indefinite leave to remain in this country?
I think it's problematic to do that.
Right. So the reason I ask that question is because, according to estimates, if we give the millions of people who have come over indefinite leave to remain, which, Michelle, means they can stay in the country forever, they can access the welfare state, they can also bring relatives over, they can get student loans. The estimated cost of that, which everybody in Westminster is committed to, they're all committed to indefinite leave to remain, is between 200 and 234 billion pounds for the British taxpayer. The best thing we can do as a country, if you don't want to be spending 12 billion pounds a year on welfare for people who aren't British, is scrap indefinite leave to remain. Not just extend the period at which people need to live in the country to become eligible for it, scrap it altogether. That's what I would do if I was Prime Minister. I mean, some fantasy land, that's what I'd do. It's what I think Reform should commit themselves to doing. I don't think anybody in Westminster has any idea as to what's coming down the track.
I think the issue is that we need to get into a stage where people come here. You know, I was firmly against Brexit, and I think we would be in a much better place if we were still in the EU, because we'd have seen people coming to work, going back when they'd stop working. But I think what we absolutely need to do is realise that you cannot have indefinite leave to remain for absolutely everybody who comes to the country. You need to give people, you know, effectively get people who are coming on working visas who leave at the end of that.
What do you make to it all? What a I say this all the time. What a pickle this country is getting itself into, isn't it, when it comes to the direction of travel and some of the choices politically that are being made. And I can tell you, when it comes to politics, Keir Starmer, he is not having a good time of it at all. A poll now shows the impact that even now Jeremy Corbyn's party would be having. We'll take a look at that and discuss after the break.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Dewbs, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
The Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dewbs & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Michelle Dewberry, Matt Goodwin and Matthew Larza alongside you. We have been discussing the absolute farce, quite frankly, that goes on in this country. It doesn't get any better, though, for Keir Starmer, because a new poll out has suggested that a left-wing party, which would be, of course, led by Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana, get this, it could be level with the Labour Party when it comes to national voting intention. I mean, Keir Starmer has done nothing but focus, weirdly, on reform. He mentions Nigel Farage and all the rest of it, or the Labour Party do more than I don't know what on social media, but now it looks like he's going to get battered by the left as well.
Well, the rise of the Corbyn party is great news for reform, because what it's going to do is drag the Labour Party to the left and eat into the Labour Party in completely different geography to reform. So it's going to do very well in Muslim-dominated areas, it's going to do very well in student areas, and it's probably going to take a big chunk of Labour seats from the Labour Party. And every time Starmer tries to move right, I mean, to be frank, it doesn't make that much sense for Starmer to move right, because there's only about 15% of current Labour voters going to reform. He's kind of caught between these two pressure points. And so I think Farage will end up being the big winner, because he can go into the Red Wall, Wales, Northern England, while eating what's left of the Tories. My big worry with Corbyn and Sultana, I'll be honest with you, is this is going to be a Trojan horse for Islamist sectarianism in British politics. It's going to unleash some very dark stuff in British politics, in lots of Muslim-dominated seats that we've already seen have been where Labour MPs have been harassed and intimidated because of issues that are happening elsewhere in the world rather than what's happening here in the UK.
So, look, I mean, this is one poll which puts them on 15% and puts Labour down like that. I mean, look, when there's a novelty factor to parties, remember Change UK, which is a breakaway from the Labour Party under Corbyn? It was on 30% in a poll when it first started, and it certainly wasn't on 30% in any election. It was barely on 0.3% in the first election it fought. So I think we need to, realise that it's a phenomenon at the moment. I think what it will do is it actually takes some votes off reform. It's actually not true that it doesn't take any votes off reform. It does in some polls. It literally does.
This movement's already taken 5 seats off Labour.
Let me finish. It also takes a lot of votes off the Greens. We don't talk about the Greens very much. They've actually been creeping up to kind of 13-14% in polls, and what it does is it takes a huge chunk off the Greens. I don't disagree that Labour has a tough job trying to appeal to voters in the centre, voters who may be culturally conservative, as well as its base, which is rather different. And I think that this is a challenge. Labour can't ignore that completely.
What you were also witnessing is the breakdown of the two political parties that dominated British politics for 100 years. If you're the Labour Party, you can no longer unify an electorate comprised of patriotic, blue-collar, pro-Brexit, anti-immigration workers with an assortment of ultra-woke, progressive, middle-class elites and a splattering of Muslim voters that are more interested in what's going on in Gaza than what's going on in UK politics. It is impossible to unify those groups.
I think it's impossible maybe to get the sort of edges of those groups. I don't think it's impossible to build a coalition that includes lots of different people. I predict to you, depending on what happens in Israel-Palestine, which will have an impact in that very small number of Muslim seats that the Gaza independence won, and maybe 3, 4, 5 more at the next election. Apart from those seats, this lot won't win a single seat anywhere.
The analysis after last year's general election suggested that the Islamic sectarian vote, the independent Muslim vote, could eat into as many as 30 Labour-held seats in the country. So let's just say...
It could eat in, but they're not going to win in 30 Labour-held seats.
You never know, because given the demographic story that's unfolding in this country, actually the Muslim vote is going to get bigger and more
organised. And it depends what happens in Israel-Palestine, about how angry people are.
Doesn't that in itself make you incredibly uncomfortable about the direction of British politics?
And I think the Gaza independents are wrong.
Depends on what happens in the Middle East.
Absolutely, and the Gaza independents and the Commons often vote with the Tories. So, I mean, on various issues. So, I'm firmly opposed to to those independents. And but I don't think that a Sultana Corbyn party, which after all started rowing with itself within 90 minutes, is going to be a major force in British politics.
Andy says, Michelle, let me get this right. In a poll, 15% of respondents said that they would vote for a party which doesn't exist, doesn't have a name, and certainly has no policies. The problem, he suggests here, are perhaps the people responding are ticking that box. AM on your say says, Michelle, you saying the country is in a pickle doesn't even touch the sides. Well, look, I was actually being polite. Regular viewers of this programme will know exactly my sentiments. I feel that this nation is intent on self-harming. I cannot fathom why we are making the decisions that we are making in this country. The direction of travel constantly alarms and concerns me. And we rant about this often. And one of the things I love about this show is we sit there, we do it together, we try and make sense of the world. I'm not sure how much we succeed because this world really does feel like it is going absolutely bonkers. But you know what? We'll smile, we'll get through it together. But for now, that is all we've got time for. Matthew Larser, thank you for your company. Matt Goodwin, thank you for yours too. Up next, it's Nigel Farage. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a breezy and at times wet Tuesday, showers ease overnight, cloud breaks up, and then actually a fine period of weather through Wednesday for the vast majority. We've had low pressure in charge during Tuesday. That's slowly pushing away into the North Sea, taking its persistent rain with it, but leaving behind a legacy of cloud and outbreaks of showery rain for central and southern Scotland, northern and eastern England. Meanwhile, the next low starting to move up from the southwest, albeit relatively slowly, bringing some rain back into Cornwall, parts of Devon by the end of the night. In between, clear spells and a cool start to Wednesday, but a bright start for many of us away, that is, from the southwest of England, where it's going to be damp with some persistent and at times heavy rain. That's going to be pushing into Exeter, parts of Somerset, Dorset through the morning. Wales getting off to a bright start. Northern Ireland the place to be first thing. Plenty of sunshine here, likewise for western Scotland. I think further east across Scotland, thicker cloud and some remaining showers, nothing too heavy at this stage. And those showers will be easing during the morning. Northern and eastern England likewise seeing some cloud and some showers. And as temperatures rise through the day, there's likely to be one or two further showers developing through central and southern Scotland, the far north of England. But elsewhere across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, central and southeastern England, it's a bright day, plenty of dry weather and feeling warm once again in places mid to high 20s likely. A different story for the far southwest of Wales and southwest England. Rain here, pushing then further northeast as we begin Thursday. Not much rain, it has to be said, for Wales and the southwest as we start off Thursday. The heavier showers move through Northern Ireland and western Scotland, where it will continue to be unsettled as we start off Friday. Further southeast, it's warmer, sunnier, and with temperatures reaching 29 Celsius, feeling hot again in places.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Motorists using the M4 westbound in West Berkshire should be aware that all lanes are closed due to a vehicle fire between Junction 12 and Junction 13. Normal traffic conditions are expected to resume at 10:45 tonight. In Hampshire, there is a road traffic collision on the A34 southbound, with one lane closed between the A272 and the M3. Traffic is expected to clear by 9:30 this evening. And on the trains, there is major disruption between Hull and Selby affecting various services, including Northern lines between Hull and Goole. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash. So make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. A day of extraordinary revelation